What we are doing to the forests of the world is but a mere reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. That's Mahatma Gandhi. A powerful quote, and it really zeroes in on what we're exploring today, this deep interconnectedness between us and our environment. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Today, our focus is Northeast India. It's a region of, well, stunning beauty, but also one facing profound impacts from the climate crisis that's unfolding right now.
Exactly. And our goal today is to really critically discuss the latest insights on this from the Observer Research Foundation, ORF. It's a major Indian think tank. This is super relevant stuff, not just generally interesting, but particularly if you're a UPSC aspirant. You'll find this crucial for current affairs, both prelims and mains. We'll be covering the science, the human cost, and importantly, the resilience we're seeing emerge.
Absolutely. Prepare for some real aha moments, I think. We'll look at why Northeast India is so vulnerable, what the projections, some quite grim, look like, and then, crucially, what's actually being done. What incredible steps are being taken on the ground. It's not just about the problems.
There's real ingenuity there.
So to get started on that interconnectedness Gandhi mentioned, let's face a stark reality. Northeast India. It ranks among the most vulnerable regions globally to climate change. What are the first hit? Think about the issues already there. Conflicts, floods, erosion, landslides, loss of livelihoods, people being displaced, biodiversity loss. We used to see these maybe as separate problems. But now, modern science connects them directly to anthropogenic warming, to human-caused climate change. It really reframes everything, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And there's solid scientific backing for this. Maybe one of the first big ones was the 2019 Climate Vulnerability Assessment for the Indian Himalayan region. What's striking is it put 4 Northeast states right there in the top 5 most vulnerable across the whole Himalayan region.
4 out of 5, wow.
Yeah. And they looked at it broadly: socioeconomics, demographics, health, how sensitive agriculture is, forest livelihoods, access to information, infrastructure, a whole range of things. That's why, the Indian delegation at COP24 specifically pointed to Assam and Mizoram. Based on these findings, they were highlighted as most vulnerable.
Okay, so that's the situation now, already precarious. What does the science say is coming next? What are the projections for the future?
Well, given that baseline vulnerability, the projections are, frankly, quite severe. The Hindu Kush Himalaya Assessment Report in 2019, it confirmed what the IPCC warned about back in 2014 regarding glaciers, but it added new detail for the eastern Himalayas. Even if we manage to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, well, over a third of the glaciers there could be gone by 2100.
Over a third?
And we're already seeing it, right? Average temperatures in the region are up 1.3 degrees Celsius. Add to that, maybe 40% of the glaciers on the Tibetan Plateau could disappear by 2050. This directly threatens water, energy, food security right there in Northeast India, Assam included.
That's
sad.
Yeah, that's incredibly sobering. The source document used a phrase that really jumped out: water wars. What does that mean in this context?
Right, that phrase is alarming. There's actually a data-based index looking at hydropolitical issues, the politics around shared water. It forecasts potential water wars in the Ganges-Brahmaputra basin. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean state-on-state conflict immediately. It points more towards increased tensions, maybe internal displacement, conflict over scarce resources, breakdown of cooperation, things exacerbated by climate change and population growth.
But we don't even have to look only at projections, do we? We're seeing extreme weather events right now, things that feel different.
Exactly. The recent trends are undeniable signs of warming. Just this past September 2024, most states there had this really unusual heat wave. Temperatures hit 40 degrees Celsius, anomalies up to 10 degrees above normal with crushing humidity. Some places felt like 50 Celsius near heat dome conditions.
That sounds unbearable.
It was. And remember, just a few months before, in May, another long heat wave killed scores of people, shut down schools, temperatures 8 degrees above normal in places. This kind of intense, widespread heat across the Northeast was, well, unprecedented. New records were set in several districts. It's a definite shift.
We often focus on the floods, the immediate visual devastation. But what about the less visible impacts, the sort of slower, long-term consequences?
That's a really important point. The ripple effects go far beyond the initial event. Assam is a prime example. Between those 2 heat waves we just talked about, devastating floods, over 100 reported deaths, more than 1.2 million people affected across 23 districts. You had widespread erosion damaging homes, farms, crops, livestock. It just impoverishes people. But beyond that immediate crisis, think long-term. Children's mental health, disrupted education, lost opportunities, increased stigma, discrimination, social issues. And studies do show links between these disasters and long-lasting mental health problems, PTSD, depression, anxiety. That's a crucial connection for, say, a mains answer, the human cost.
You also mentioned something I find really interesting and maybe overlooked. Human-wildlife conflict. How does climate change feed into that?
Yeah, it connects the dots in a way. Rising temperatures, changes in vegetation patterns, habitats becoming degraded or fragmented all across the Northeast. This directly leads to more encounters, more conflict between humans and wildlife. Studies even link the spread of invasive plants, which aren't good for native animals, to warming and rainfall changes.
We certainly see more videos, don't we? Tigers, elephants in villages.
Exactly. On social media, mainstream news, and Northeast India does have some of the highest casualty rates from these conflicts in the country. Now, establishing the direct causal link to warming for every incident is complex, ongoing research. But the trends strongly suggest habitat pressure from climate shifts is a major factor.
Okay, let's zoom in specifically on Assam for a moment. It keeps coming up as highly vulnerable, almost like the epicenter. What makes Assam's situation so particularly acute?
Assam really is a critical case study, especially as you mentioned, for UPSC prep. For the last decade, study after study has put Assam at or near the top for climate vulnerability in India. The Climate Vulnerability Assessment for Adaptation Planning listed it among the top 8 most vulnerable states. More recently, the National Assessment from the Department of Science and Technology, it found a staggering 60% of Assam's districts are highly vulnerable.
60%.
60%. And think about floods. A study by CEW, the Council on Energy, Environment, and Water, found 6 of India's 8 most flood-prone districts over the last decade are in Assam. These numbers really paint a picture of persistent, escalating risk.
And this isn't just a domestic issue, is it? There's a global risk assessment that also highlights Assam.
That's right. The 2023 Gross Domestic Climate Risk Report from XDI, the Cross-Dependency Initiative. They look globally at physical climate risk. It ranked 9 Indian states in the top 50 global regions most at risk from climate damage to the built environment, buildings, infrastructure, by 2050. Assam placed 28th globally, with a projected risk increase of over 33% compared to 1990.
So it's where people live and work meeting increasing extreme weather.
Precisely. It highlights that intersection. A crucial point for understanding vulnerability in developed areas, too.
Okay, this sounds incredibly challenging, almost overwhelming, but it's not all doom and gloom, right? Let's pivot towards hope. What's being done? What about innovation and resilience?
Absolutely, and this is where it gets genuinely inspiring. Despite everything, the northeastern states are taking some really ambitious, pioneering steps, often leading the way. Look at Arunachal Pradesh. They have the Packet Declaration. It's landmark. It sets targets short, medium, long-term across all government departments aiming for net zero by 2047. That's before India's national target of 2070.
Across all departments. That sounds like a systemic shift.
It really is.
Right.
Integrating climate action everywhere, not just in the Environment Ministry. Then you have Tripura's BioVillage 2.0. That's a great example of government and civil society working together. A bottom-up approach, building model villages focused on sustainable growth and conserving biodiversity.
So community-led resilience.
Exactly. And Meghalaya is developing this environment state concept, trying to weave nature into economic planning, creating climate action zones, incentivizing climate-friendly products. And Assam, despite its vulnerability, is also acting, setting up climate cells in colleges. Smart move, connecting research and policy, researching sectoral impacts. They've even got policies for retiring old vehicles, bringing in CNG and electric buses. These are concrete steps showing real commitment.
That is genuinely encouraging. Now, let's bring the focus to the indigenous people and local communities. They seem to be in this unique position, almost a paradox.
It is a paradox, in a way. They are absolutely victims of this crisis. Their contribution to the greenhouse gases causing the problem, minimal. Yet they're often the first to feel the direct impacts of warming, and usually have the fewest resources to adapt. But, and this is crucial, they also hold this incredible deep well of traditional knowledge. Wisdom geared towards nature, ways of coping with environmental change developed over generations.
It's an underestimated resource.
Hugely underestimated. This indigenous knowledge is vital for building resilience.
And this ties directly into something absolutely fundamental, food security. How are their traditional ways of getting food being affected?
Directly and severely. Across the whole region, losing forest cover, the spread of invasive plants, native species disappearing. These are direct threats to food security for millions. We don't always study it enough. But the impact of warming on the specific native plants and animals used for food and medicine by indigenous communities, it's profound. Think about the Missings, the Karbis, other communities across the eastern Himalayas. Their lives, their livelihoods, their culture, their food security, it's all being undermined as these traditional resources decline.
So given they are both victims and holders of vital knowledge, how do we make sure their voices, their insights are actually heard on a bigger stage in the climate justice discussion?
That's the key question for meaningful climate justice, isn't it? Northeast India's indigenous knowledge can genuinely strengthen resilience globally. It positions the region as a key player. To make that happen, we need practical steps. More representation from the Northeast in official delegations at, say, COP meetings. We need to empower civil society activists from the region to share their realities and wisdom. Support informed, passionate young people to attend these global conferences. Make sure their experiences, their solutions are actually part of the conversation, not just a footnote. It's about shifting them from being seen only as victims to being seen as vital contributors.
Great. It's about agency.
Exactly.
So, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, our listener? Well, understanding Northeast India isn't just learning about one region. It's really a microcosm of global climate challenges. But importantly, it's also a beacon showing local resilience, the power of traditional wisdom. It really forces you to consider how environmental, social, policy issues are all tangled together, and the potential, the real potential of solutions driven by communities.
A reminder that while challenges are global, solutions often start local.
Precisely. We hope the insights from this deep dive give you a more nuanced understanding. Maybe you're studying for the UPSC. Maybe you just want to be a more informed global citizen. Either way, this context is vital. If you found this deep dive insightful, do hit that like button. Please subscribe for more analyses like this. And definitely leave us a comment, any questions you have or other topics you'd like us to tackle next. We really do value your input. Thank you for diving deep with us today.